Okay everyone, today is September 16th, 2024. This is the series where I go over to r/games to keep you and me updated on everything going on in the world of video games. Let's see what we got today. First up, it looks like we got some Civ 7 news. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 developer breaks down the new leader mechanics. It's one of the biggest changes we've made to the game and one of the scariest. Interesting. This article comes from Tech Radar, written by Deshelle Woods. Okay, yeah, this article just goes more in depth into that mechanic where you're going to be switching leaders with each new age. For some reason, when I read this title, I thought new leader mechanic might mean like leaderboards or something like that, but that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about the different civilizations that you take on every time you switch to a new age in the game. This mechanic has been talked about quite a bit already since that first big gameplay release couple weeks ago. This article just goes more in depth into all that information. So if you're looking for more information about Civilization 7, coming over here to Tech Radar and give this article a read. All right, next up, how Intel lost the Sony PlayStation business. This article comes from Routers.com, written by Max A. Cherney. Intel lost out on a contract to design and fabricate Sony's PlayStation 6 chip in 2022, which dealt a significant blow to its effort to build its fledgling contract manufacturing business, according to three sources with knowledge of the events. Intel and AMD were the final two contenders in the bidding process for the contract. Winning the Sony PlayStation 6 chip design business would have been a victory for Intel's design segment and would have doubled as a win for the company's contract manufacturing effort or foundry business, which was the centerpiece of Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger's turnaround plan. Gelsinger announced plans for Intel to create a foundry unit in 2021 and formally launched it at an event in San Jose, California in February of this year. The PlayStation chip deal originated in Intel's design segment, but would have been a boon to the financial performance of the foundry business after this year's separation. A dispute over how much profit Intel stood to take from each chip sold to the Japanese electronics giant blocked Intel from settling on the price with Sony, according to two of the sources. Rival AMD landed the contract through a competitive bidding process that eliminated others such as Broadcom until only Intel and AMD remained. Discussions between Sony and Intel took months in 2022 and included meetings between the two company CEOs, dozens of engineers and executives. In response to Routers reporting about the PlayStation 6 talk and Intel's failure to win the business, an Intel spokesperson said, "We strongly disagree with the characterization, but are not going to comment about any current or potential customer conversations. We have a very healthy customer pipeline across both our product and foundry business, and we are squarely focused on innovating to meet their needs." All right, the best summary I can make of this is that Intel was in a bidding war against other companies, including AMD. As a part of that bid, Intel was struggling to agree with Sony about how much Intel was going to take, how much profit Intel was going to take for each chip sold. Because of that, they lost out on the bid war and AMD won. Now, the article goes on to explain that Intel has actually been struggling in this market. They've been struggling to get big contracts from outside companies, although Intel is stating that they don't agree with that. We don't agree with that characterization, basically, is what they're saying. They say that they're doing fine. However, I mean, it's fair to say that winning out on this contract would have meant a lot of money for Intel, and instead it's going to another company. I think more than anything, this story just reveals to me the business side of the video game world and how it works. The fact that we just had the PlayStation 5 Pro announced, it's not even out yet back in 2022, they were already talking with chip companies about the PlayStation 6. And when we're already talking about whether or not consoles even have a future, whether we're going to be seeing consoles down the line, looks like we're probably going to be seeing a PlayStation 6. Whether we're going to be seeing a new Xbox remains to be seen. Okay, next up, Valve working on deadlock anti-cheat measures, but they're not in place yet. That's not super surprising. I mean, the game isn't released yet. It's technically still in an alpha. The fact that it has hundreds of thousands of players, I mean, it's still in an alpha. That doesn't make a difference. So they're still working on the game. It doesn't surprise me they don't have anti-cheat measures yet. It comes from Eurogamer and it is written by Vicky Blake. Yes, Valve is still working on an anti-cheat for its new shooter, Deadlock. Developer for Deadlock, the hero shooter Valve wouldn't admit it existed even after it had hit a concurrent player peak of over 16,000 last month, first confirmed on the game's Discord server that it was working on anti-cheat back on 11th of August. Since then, the development team has dropped several updates saying it consistently considers cheating a very high priority in the long term and had a group of people working on anti-cheat. However, the game's Reddit community has seen dozens of complaints from players, including one passed yesterday that asserts one player encountered 3 cheaters in a row today. Consistently, as spotted by PC Gamer, the team is relying on players to report cheaters manually via its Discord server. Okay, so they don't even have reporting functionality in the game. Again, that doesn't necessarily surprise me all that much, but the fact that you have to go to the Discord server to report cheaters. If you think someone is cheating in the game, please report it in the #reports channel of the official Deadlock Discord by Valve, the moderation team explains. You can get the invite for it in the game's main menu. Cheat reports are quickly manually being reported on while an anti-cheat is still being developed. Deadlock reached a new peak concurrent player count of 171,000 players when it was finally announced at the end of last month. There's still no actual release date for Deadlock, however, and it can only be played via invite at the time of writing. Again, not much more to say here. It doesn't surprise me that there isn't an anti-cheat functionality yet. The game is still in alpha. It's just kind of crazy how big this game is already when it's not out yet. It's only in testing, but it's already. They haven't even announced that it exists yet. Of course, everyone knows it exists, but they haven't announced that it exists, and yet it's almost 200,000 concurrent players at this point. It's crazy. Starfield Shattered Space Deep Dive. Let's give this video a look here. It's less than 10 minutes.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Since launch, we've added new features.
Yeah, like maps. Woohoo. I still stand by that House Faroon gameplay should have existed in the base game. It's one of the main factions. It's kind of crazy that it's coming out in an expansion, but there's so many things that should have existed in the main game.
The fate of our house was written among the stars.
We love Starfield's massive open galaxy, but from early on in our planning, we knew we wanted to introduce a more secluded and handcrafted location, similar to what you've seen from our past expansions.
There should have been a lot more handcrafted locations. The massive galaxy is not fun to explore. The way they're describing this is that you go to House Faroon, you go to their planet, possibly galaxy, maybe there's a few different planets, I don't know. Obviously we won't know until we play the game, but the way they're describing it is that everything is very tied together, handcrafted, fleshed out, and inclusive. Every planet with a main faction should be like that. The fact that you go to Jameson or you go to the UC planet and there's one big city and that's it. There aren't a bunch of different little cities or connected side stories on that planet. The fact that it's just like one big city and that's where everything exists makes it feel so cut off from everything else. It doesn't feel like a planet, it just feels like one city. Now, we still don't have the expansion yet, so we don't actually know how this is going to feel, but if they're explaining how this one faction has a tied together complete world, it's gonna feel so weird going back to the other worlds where there's just one big city and that's it. And it just is more frustrating to why everything else feels so incomplete in this game. Well, it looks like Starfield. It just looks like dark, creepy Starfield. I guess it makes sense that if they want House Faroon to feel like this really separate faction tied off from the rest of the colonies, that they would want the expansion to be like, well, you have to have a reason to let outsiders, quote unquote, come into this colony. And so they had some sort of natural disaster. They split space-time and it absorbed part of the capital, so now they need help, they need supplies, they need support. But at the same time, I'm sitting here going like, I just want to explore the faction. I just want to be able to, I don't necessarily want there to be some natural disaster as I learn about the history of this world and explore the people. I don't know, it feels a little cheap that it's like, yes, you finally get to go to House Faroon, but you're going to House Faroon while it's half destroyed, so it's not really the House Faroon that's existed for so long. It's just a House Faroon that's existing for the sake of this story.
Varun Kai has a completely distinct visual identity. We say it's very alien. You'll see this in the extraterrestrial landscape, gravity anomalies, and much more.
It's very alien, but they're still humans. The only living thing, I mean, I guess there's like creatures, there's animals, but the only intelligent life that exists in this world, in this game, are humans, and it feels very weird to me that there aren't intelligent aliens.
Terrifying ambush scenarios.
Oh man, it's gonna be so scary. I mean, it's definitely more Starfield. That's all I can really say about it. It looks like scary Starfield, is what it looks like. It'll be interesting to see how expansive it really is. Again, it looked like a big planet with one city on it. It'll be interesting to learn more about the Varun. It's scary Starfield. I don't know what else more to say about it. Okay, next up, ex-GTA boss's new studio saves a chunk of Immortals of Avium dev team. This article comes from GameSpot, written by Eddie McCutch. Absurd Ventures, the studio founded by Rockstar Games co-founder Dan Houser, has revealed that it's hired some of the Immortals of Avium development team from Ascendant to become a new studio under the Absurd label. Oh, they're creating a whole new studio. The studio was previously facing an uncertain future due to mass layoffs after Immortals struggled. Immortals of Avian, yeah, the game Immortals of Avian. I barely know anything about that game though. Now the developers are getting another chance to make a new game by joining Absurd to work with one of the most famous and prominent game developers of all time, Dan Houser. There's the post on Twitter from Brett Robbins. What we do know is that Absurd Marin is working on a story-driven action-adventure game set in an upcoming universe to be announced later. This follows a previous announcement of Absurd's game universe, which is called A Better Paradise. Well, at a time where we continue to see so many people getting laid off, it's glad to see that others are getting their jobs back. People are getting jobs, people are getting hired, people can feed their families, pay their bills. Okay, looks like we have some more news about PlayStation consoles. In this case, it's coming from the PlayStation's co-CEO, who is insisting consoles will remain the core of its business. This article comes from Video Game Chronicles, written by Andy Robinson. Sony Interactive Entertainment has recently made expanding to PC and mobile devices a priority for its business, though console users continue to receive the majority of its releases well in advance of other platforms. In a new interview, Hideaki Nishino, head of Sony Interactive Entertainment's platform business group, was asked by Japanese publication Nikkei if it could summarize the value of consoles. I think that with mobile devices, there are many games that show advertisements, and PCs are difficult to set up, but with PlayStation, once you turn it on, you can experience the content you bought straight away. Well, after you download all the patches, but yes. The store where you purchase software also offers an intuitive experience because the products are laid out in an easy to understand manner. Also, you get all of the money, you get the main majority of the cut of purchases because it's your own storefront. He added, "We are trying to increase our share of the overall game market by developing content for PCs as well. There's no doubt that consoles will be at the core of our business, but by offering titles for platforms other than consoles, we will reach a wider range of customers." All right, this all makes sense to me. Of course, PlayStation is going to stick with consoles. They get the lion's share of the profit when people buy games for their console / on their digital marketplace, but it also makes sense that they would then want to try to hit other customers as well by releasing for PC too. This just kind of adds to the PlayStation 6 story that we will be seeing a PlayStation 6 at some point. That all makes sense. Sony is behind consoles, and they're going to keep releasing consoles as long as it creates a profit for them. Next up, how sci-fi author Peter F. Hamilton is creating a new RPG universe with BioWare veterans. This article comes from IGN, written by Robert Anderson. During last year's Game Awards, Archetype Entertainment unveiled its upcoming AAA RPG, Exodus, crafted by a team of industry veterans, including former Mass Effect staff from BioWare and more recruits from 343, Naughty Dog, and other leading studios. Exodus promises to deliver a next-generation, story-driven RPG that blends cinematic storytelling with modern AAA gameplay. Collaborating on the project is renowned sci-fi author Peter F. Hamilton, acclaimed for his expansive Commonwealth Saga and the Night's Dawn trilogy. Hamilton has lent his world-building expertise to shape Exodus and its broader universe. Alongside consulting on the game, Hamilton is also penning a duology of books set in the universe. The first novel, Exodus, the Archimedes Engine, will be released on September 19th, with pre-orders now available. So it looks like the rest of the article is an interview with an author. So if you're a fan of the author or you're just excited about the upcoming Exodus games, definitely come over here to IGN and give this a read. Really interesting though. I mean, it kind of makes sense if you really want an expansive game. Bring in an author who's used to building expansive worlds through the written word. In this case, he can write out the world for you, and then you can use that as a jumping off point to add to your game. Sounds great. Also, it's really cool that the whole studio is built of a really well-known developers and people who have made some great games. After that, we have a gameplay trailer for a game called The Resistance. I haven't heard anything about this game. Man, okay, so it's like a first-person shooter, maybe story-driven action game. Really cinematic. Really, really cinematic. Like 1920s maybe, 1940s. Like Japan mobs. Maybe World War II? Let's just feel a little World War II. Defiant. So maybe it's called The Resistance in English. That looks cool. There's no release date in the trailer. Let me see what more I can find out about this game. The only articles for this game are in Chinese. And it seems possible that the Defiant was a subtitle. I mean, that seems like a really fun game. I tried to do some Googling, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of information out about the game right now. I'm gonna have to keep my eyes open for more information about this game because it seems really interesting. I guess this is possibly Chinese. All right, after that, Touch Arcade is shutting down. Yay, another developer shutting down. This comes from toucharcade.com. And it's written by Jared Nelson. This is a post that I've known was coming for quite some time, but that doesn't make it easier to write. After more than 16 years, Touch Arcade will be closing its doors and shutting down operations. There may be an additional post here or there in the coming weeks as we try to honor our previously agreed to obligations, and a proper farewell post is in the works too. But as of now, our normal daily operations have ceased. The reason we're shutting down probably isn't a surprising one. Money! Wow. It's just more studios shutting down, more people losing their jobs. All right, looks like we have a little bit more news here about the new Flappy Bird game from the original developer Dong Nguyen. No, I have no related with the revival by Game Tech Holdings. I did not sell anything. I also don't support crypto. It's just a post, it looks like, on his Twitter. He's not related to the new game, not really surprising. He removed himself from the original Flappy Bird game a long time ago. We'll have to keep an eye on this story as it moves forward. We'll have to see how much of a scam the new Flappy Bird game is. When it comes out, it might possibly have nothing to do with crypto. We're gonna have to see. All right, after scrolling a bit, looks like we have some news from Splatoon on Twitter. After 2 incredible years of Splatoon 3, regular updates will come to a close. Don't worry, Splatoween, Frosty Fest, Spring Fest, and Summer Nights will continue with some returning themes. This is also just a post on Twitter. Updates for weapon adjustments will be released as needed. So if they need to nerf or buff things, they will still be doing that, but probably only if there's something that's really broken. Big run, extra work, and monthly challenges will continue for the time being. I feel like Splatoon 3 is still a pretty popular game. My big question here, is this a clue that Splatoon 4 is coming out soon? That they're starting to put work towards that game instead of working on Splatoon 3? Splatoon is a great game and it still has a strong fan base, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're not shutting down Splatoon altogether. They're just refocusing their work towards the next game. We got some more trailers here. Scrolling and scrolling. An article from yesterday, former Bungie lawyer says Sony's discipline forced Bungie to get their heads out of their asses and fix the things that were wrong with their game. This is the future I thought the company should embrace after the Sony acquisition, a studio, not an independent company. There's definitely been a lot of struggle from Bungie, and they are moving forward in a really big new way. The releases are coming out in a very different way than they used to. They did have a lot of layoffs recently, so let's give this article a read. It comes from The Game Post, written by Zahad Ali. Former Bungie Chief Legal Officer Don McGowan credits Sony's discipline for pushing Bungie to focus on new player acquisition and running Destiny 2 like a business, shedding light on behind-the-scenes changes at the studio. In a new post on LinkedIn, McGowan didn't hold back his thoughts, saying that Sony has pushed Bungie to make much-needed adjustments to how it handled its flagship game, Destiny 2. I've watched so many videos on YouTube recently about how the new game experience is so bad. Bungie 2's new game experience, or new player experience, I mean. If you are someone who's never played Destiny before, or if you're just kind of new to video games, jumping into Destiny 2 is so confusing and so overwhelming. There's no reason for someone to keep playing the game unless they already know Destiny and know they want to play it. If you're a free-to-play game that makes money by people continuing to play your game and wanting to spend money in your game because they keep playing it, how are you supposed to continue to make money if new players coming into it don't keep playing it? McGowan acknowledged that while recent layoffs are not part of the praise, Sony inflicting some discipline on Bungie brought exactly what was needed. Much though it pains me to say this, it appears that Sony's inflicting some discipline on my former colleagues may have forced them to fix the things that were wrong with their game, said McGowan in a post on LinkedIn. To be clear, I'm not talking about the layoffs. I'm talking about forcing them to get their heads out of their asses and focus on things like implementing a method of new player acquisition, not just doing fan service for the fans in the Bungie C-suite, and running the game like a business. Good. I still have friends in that environment, and I'd like them to keep jobs. All right, this goes into the new way that Destiny is releasing expansions, the 2 mini expansions every year, or at least the next year. I would assume that the plan is to continue that for years to come, but obviously things might change. And if this post is to be believed, then I would assume there's other new things to come, and we'll have to keep our eyes open for that. After that, we have some news from Undertale. As a part of their 9th anniversary letter, Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 are now feature complete. This is a post coming directly from Undertale and Deltarune. There's a lot of inside jokes here that I don't get, so if you're a big fan of those games, definitely come on over here and check this out. But if you're looking forward to Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, they're on their way. All right, it looks like I have reached the end of all the primary updates for today. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you are someone who wants to stay up to date on everything going on in the world of video games, please subscribe to my channel, click the bell so that you're notified when I upload a new video. I'm BTayOkay. This was September 16th, 2024 on r/games. I'll see you tomorrow.